Weekends with Whitney. Coming up in this morning show, we saddle up the mule, fire up the tractor, press some cane, and turn up the heat to make cane syrup the way it was 100 years ago. Plus, friends and family said it would never last, but the Faulkners proved them all wrong. What they've learned about love, happiness, and the world after living in all corners of it. Then Dr. Nick unravels the mystery of Lewy body disease. Until the death of comedian Robin Williams, few knew what it was, even doctors. Yet it's the second most common form of dementia behind only Alzheimer's. Important information that can save lives. But we begin on the farm. Not your typical farm for a lot of reasons. But we take you there for the experience of making sugarcane syrup the way it was 100 years ago. Daisy encircles a Louisiana tradition more than 200 years old. She's the muscle behind grinding sugar cane into cane juice. Angola warden Burl Cane is the reason she's doing it.
We've been doing it probably for 8 or 10 years.
Did they do it before you arrived?
No, none of this was here. All this stuff that we did now, they didn't do anything, it was just blah.
Warden Cane resurrected this tradition after finding a piece of the old sugar mill that operated here at Angola from the early 1900s to the 1970s.
And that's all that's left, is that grinder right there was in the old sugar mill, and we found it back here in the pile of trash. We restored it, and then we bought this the guy gave us this old tractor.
Aww.
And so it's an antique, so that's what's running that mill.
Daisy runs the other mill they also found in the pile of trash. It was trashed when sugarcane production was halted here more than 40 years after Elaine Hunt became Director of Corrections.
Elaine Hunt wanted no remembrance of the sugar industry because it represented slavery to the to the prison and all the hard work.
The mill was sold and shipped to South America.
The mill went to a place in Guatemala, and they came up the Mississippi River with barges and when the water was high and loaded the sugar mill, the parts of it, the components on the barges with a crane, and then the ocean-going barge back down the river and to Guatemala with it. So our sugar mill somewhere in Guatemala today grinding sugar.
This old copper sugar kettle is a reminder of how history and conditions have changed at Angola. To honor those advancements, every year before the holidays, inmates and prison employees work side by side to make cane syrup the old-fashioned way.
We did that when I was a kid. Every Thanksgiving we had to make syrup, so that was good. School was out.
They only grow 1.5 acres of sugarcane here now. 2 varieties, one old, one new. They had to get the old one, blue ribbon cane, from a Mississippi farmer.
A farmer in Mississippi had a little old patch of ribbon cane because it's not produced commercially anymore because it's not that efficient.
Oh.
And so we found that, the old-timey sugar cane. Then we got some new sugar cane from LSU, from Plaquemine. They call it Plaquemine variety. And so we make 2 different kinds, just a little bit sweeter, but it's really not the old-fashioned syrup. So we want to stay traditional with the old-fashioned stuff.
They even cut cane the old-fashioned way, by hand. Once it sits a few days, they start grinding. For Daisy's grinder, they feed the cane stalks in one at a time. They go in fat and come out thin because the cane juice has been expressed. That juice comes out here and is filtered through this burlap sack. Then another. That filters out woody debris and dirt. The other grinder is fueled by this 1940s tractor. It moves the belt that drives the gears, that crushes the cane, that produces the juice. It's filtered through burlap sacks, then funneled into white barrels. Now at this point, it looks like muddy water, but that's all about to change here on the metal boiler.
In it, they have the old brick. They got a live fire under there, and it's heated with the fire.
The juice heats, boils, and turns into a syrup. Throughout, it's skimmed to take out any impurities. It's a clean, green operation. Even the crushed cane stalks are hauled off without gas or electric power.
See this inmate with the two mules? That's cool because that replaces a tractor. And that cranked every morning. And it doesn't burn up the clutch, and it's green. And they'll take off and go for 20 years, and that's a tractor. Right there, that's a little small tractor, pulls wagons around and all this kind of stuff, and he's gonna hook on one of these wagons probably and move it. See what he's doing? He's backing them up just like a tractor.
You're right.
And they're trained, that's his mule, and he takes care of them, and he knows their name. I got them when Edward was governor.
Did you?
I did. I told him he'd come to see us a lot when he was governor. I said, every 2 mules, I'm gonna replace one tractor, a small tractor. He thought that was the greatest idea in the world. So he was real supportive that we do the mules. That's how long we've had mules.
Those mules play a big role in getting the cane from field to table. So the cane syrup has been cooking for an hour and a half. So Warden Kane tells me it's ready to eat. Any special instructions?
No, sop it, the biscuit in the syrup.
All right.
You have a spoon, but you're really supposed to do it like I'm doing it, just wait.
Well, then I'm not using the spoon. I'm doing it your way. Oh, it's warm
good.
and hot. Best I've ever had.
Really?
Good job.
Real good. Couldn't be better. Made the old-timey way.
And we're not going to tell your cardiologist.
No, we can't tell the cardiologist. For sure. Yeah, he'll be mad. Really good. You really like it?
I really like it. And you know what? I don't like Steen's cane syrup because I think it just has such a strong flavor. So this is better than that to me.
It is.
Better.
We don't like that real thick molasses syrup either. We'd rather it be thin like this. And it's really the way they cook it. We cook it about 32 specific gravity. And so that's why it's like it is and the consistency that it is. It's like we like it. That's how we eat it.
I love it. Make it like you like it.
That's right.
Raising cane never tasted so good.
Goodbye, City Life. Green Acres, we are there.
They only made 150 of these, but they're only $8. And you don't have to go to Angola to get it either. You can contact the museum gift shop, order it online, or just call them and they'll ship it right to you. But you better hurry because they always sell out by the end of December. And still to come on Weekends with Whitney. Friends and family said it would never last, but the Faulkners proved they were wrong. What they've learned about love, happiness, and the world after living in all corners of it. And information that can save the life of someone you love. Dr. Nick unravels the often misdiagnosed, misunderstood disease, Lewy body, and treatments even a few know about right after this.
Maggio, the only way to go. Maggio Buick GMC, your satisfaction's our specialty. We really deliver on Falls River, here in New Roads. Small town atmosphere, legendary service for over 60 years. Maggio, the only way to go. The only way to go, that's Maggio.
Atlas Foundation Repair, fixing your foundation problems for more than 30 years while preserving and protecting your trees. This segment brought to you by all of our friends at St. James Place. Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. Well, relationships can be a tricky thing, but how about a young marriage that no one said would last? Well, it's the story of the Faulkners and a story of undying love. Duke and Mary Faulkner have been married 69 years. They grew up in Northeast Arkansas. They met when Mary was 15 and married young.
We married on Mary's 17th birthday, but I was much older. I was almost 18.
So you married Mary the first day you could?
Absolutely. You mean I was gonna let her get away, but God.
Everyone said it wouldn't last.
Duke said, we'll show them. That's why we've been married 69 years, and none of them are around to show. They've all died off.
I should be able to just walk out now the way we showed everybody.
In the process, Duke showed her the world. Together, they've been around the globe 3 times. Duke is the former LSU Director of International Programs and Vice Chancellor of Administration. He was also a consultant to the United Nations and the Ford Foundation. All of that has taken him to more than 100 countries and around the world 14 times. A life neither expected.
We did a lot of things that a couple of, rednecks from Northeast Arkansas shouldn't have been doing. I didn't know I couldn't do them, so I just did. Okay.
Traveling opened up a world they knew nothing about. Even their first move to St. Louis.
We grew up in a society where there were no blacks, no Catholics, and no Jews, so none. And we went to St. Louis to work, and our first job was with 2 Jewish men in a furniture store. Our customers were all black, which we'd never been around. We'd never even talked to one except my aunt's maid. And the people that we worked with were mostly Catholic. So we had a new beginning, you might say, a new genesis of finding out people were just like us no matter what they looked like. And that was really an experience that I found so worthwhile. We both did. We were able to be tolerant, accepting, loving, because the people we came in contact with were really nice people. And so when we were thrown into different societies, we were able to adapt. And I think that's one thing we can say about each other. We've been able to adapt.
Later, they moved to Crowley, where Duke headed up the LSU Ag Center's Rice Research Station. Then one day, out of the blue, the Ford Foundation called and asked Duke to move to India for a year. They had 2 toddlers and 2 weeks to make the move.
We got ready in 2 weeks with these 2 little children, and away we went, first class. We'd never been out of Arkansas, hardly. And we were flying along, and we'd never flown in an airplane. We got to India, and it was really I can't say it was traumatic, it was not traumatic, but it was different. Going from absolutely the most beautiful things you could ever see to some of the saddest things you've ever seen.
After just 2 weeks there, their son was hospitalized with a life-threatening bacterial infection.
And I was in the chapel part of the hospital praying my heart out and promising all kinds of things when this little gray-haired lady came in and talked to me a minute, and she said, "What's wrong?" And I told her, I said, "Our baby is so sick and we don't know what's wrong." And she said, "Oh, honey," she took me in her arms and she said, "Don't worry, he'll be okay. Everything's going to be okay." A feeling of peace came over me, and I went back in the room and he was awake for the first time in 3 days. And from then on, he got better and was never sick another day. I found out later, here we were in a Hindu country, in a Catholic hospital, and we were Methodists, and the lady, my beautiful angel lady, was Jewish. And we've said this many times to each other, we had all the bases covered.
Their life in India was lavish. Mary had 7 servants who did everything from cook and clean to chauffeur them around. It was back to reality a year later when they moved back to Crowley.
After we got home, I said, look, I'm raising the ante here. I was doing all this work by myself, and I had 7 servants over there. You're going to have to do something better for me here.
All kidding aside, as Duke's career was skyrocketing and he was helping teach the world how to cultivate and grow better rice, Mary became a bit of a public servant herself. It was in the early 1970s and schools were integrating.
And I decided I needed to do something about the school system because it was really, we were beginning to integrate. We needed to have something positive going on, and it just seemed like it was run by a bunch of old men.
She ran for the school board and was the first woman to ever win an elected office in Acadia Parish. She broke down some other barriers too.
When we moved there, I asked why there were no women on the jury, and they said they weren't allowed.
So she changed that too and became the first woman to serve on a jury.
I had to sign up to volunteer. Well, they had to take me. They couldn't turn me down.
They moved to Baton Rouge in the 80s and continued traveling the world, broadening their horizons, their minds, and their outlook. So much so, their traveling days are over now.
We've been there and done that, yeah.
Really, I don't even want to drive around Baton Rouge. I'm serious.
The rest of us don't either. Can you fix the traffic?
Yeah.
I asked them the secret to being married 69 years. They said even through the difficult times, they were patient, understanding, and they compromised. Mary said one other thing helped them too.
And we didn't have children till we'd been married 13 years.
No kidding. You were almost 30.
I was 30 when our first child was born.
That's a long honeymoon.
That is a long honeymoon, and I recommend it to anybody.
They're still living a bit of a honeymoon. They say love is never supposed to be easy, but it is supposed to be worth it. And still to come on Weekends with Whitney, Dr. Nick unravels the mystery of Lewy body, and it could save the life of someone you love after this. How can you afford the best retirement ever? In 3 words, St. James Place. It's easier to plan for your future when you know what your future costs may be. The surprisingly affordable life care benefit at St. James Place provides for the quality amenities and services you want, as well as the assurance of help whenever you need it, all for one predictable monthly fee. Count on the best retirement ever at St. James Place and live life well. Give the gift of fine dining this holiday season. Wayne Stabler Companies is offering 1 card for 4. The Little Village, Stab's Steak and Seafood, and their newest restaurant, Shucks. 4 sizzling restaurants, 1 card. Welcome back to Weekends with Whitney. We're joined by Dr. Nick this morning, and we are talking about suicide and the death of Robin Williams. New information has come out just this month, and it is the holidays, and unfortunately, it is that time where people think about it a lot. And there can be some underlying problems, which I think, Dr. Nick, we both learned through Robin Williams' diagnosis.
And through his wife. I have seen many interviews, Whitney. I can't recall anything that I've experienced that was so authentic. She considered it a brave act. She considered it to be a nightmare that they were in.
Yes. And in fact, she said that Lewy body disease took his life, not him.
She sure did.
Powerful.
Yeah, and that's where I am appreciative that you bring it up. It's a rise and increase in proteins. in the brain, and then that spreads, and it decreases dopamine, therefore depression, anxiety.
Yeah, you can't sleep.
You can't
REM,
sleep,
well, that'll make
have
you crazy.
Then you start having different, remember she was talking about the physical symptoms, this one 1 month, this one the next month, like a roller coaster ride of is he a hypochondriac? And they couldn't diagnose it because it's very hard to diagnose because it's, well, apparently it's either that or Parkinson's. And remember, we did read that we thought he did have Parkinson's. That's what he kind of thought he had.
And depression and all of
And
those
depression.
things. But the thing that sort of shocked me about Lewy body disease is it is the third most prominent
Yes.
form of
And
brain disease. There's Alzheimer's, dementia, and right there is Lewy body.
Lewy
Never heard of
bodies,
it before.
yeah. But back to the statement of it wasn't depression, it was the dementia. How can we really know? See, here's where I bring in that whole, how can we really know? And why couldn't it have been partly depression?
Mm-hmm.
As if somehow that would have been a poor reason. You know, it's all, well, diabetes is okay, but depression's not. I think it probably was a combination. What I struggle with, Whitney, and I say it to the world who's listening, why did he take his life? I sit back and say, what's happening in today's society that suicide becomes more and more prevalent? I don't want to take it off the dementia, because I know it's an issue.
Because there are always underlying issues to someone taking their life, because it's not a
Thank
normal
you.
thing to do.
Thank you. Yes, and it just appears to me that there's more of it. Look at the number of white men that we were reading about recently that are dying, 45 to 60.
Their deaths are on the rise
and some
because
of them
that.
are suicide related, opiate related, unhappiness related, misery related. I can't help but wonder how cultural this is.
Wow, how do we turn that back? I mean,
This
we
is
can
the
talk
real
about
question.
Kevorkian, who really brought it to the forefront.
That's interesting that you raised that, because again, I'm not here to judge him, but it was all of a sudden this movement of when it gets that bad, you take your life.
Right.
But this is what I think we need to be talking about again: is the gray.
Mm-hmm.
This is a tough issue.
Well,
And
I'll just tell you that last month we had a family cousin, 39 years old, who took her life.
Thank you for
2
sharing
children.
that. You sure did.
I have never.
And you were devastated.
Oh, and so stunned. I'm telling you.
39.
And anyone in the family, if somebody said list the people who you think, well, list everybody, and who would commit, so she would have been at the bottom. Never would do it. Fighter, great gal, never give up. I mean, that kind of spirit. And I hadn't seen her since Christmas, but it's just what happened, and no one knows. Even those closest to her, like, we know she was depressed. We don't know what happened. And I'm thinking, ugh.
And I remember you telling me when you were so upset about it, why didn't she reach out? Why didn't she reach out?
I would have sent her to you.
You could have been there for her.
Well, I know, but really, you would have been great for her.
I read somewhere, and it struck me.
Tell me.
That a lot of these suicides, and I don't want to say it of Robin Williams, but I think it's a question mark. They didn't have a network. They didn't have a strong social network. There was a certain isolation. I don't know where Robin Williams felt safe.
True. Back to the cousin, she had an incredible network.
She did. She did.
Everyone's
That's what I wanted to ask you.
favorite person, great friend.
Did she have a community? I thought she did.
And yet, maybe perhaps she's always been so strong for so long that she couldn't share her vulnerability and weakness. And because she couldn't reach out that way, even though everyone in the world would have helped her, she didn't want to seem that vulnerable.
And then add to that we're in an impulsive climate. Our society's impulsive. This may have been impulsive.
True.
Impulsive meaning that she really didn't think.
Yeah.
I know we're raising theories here.
Right,
but,
right.
But remember, we are in an urgent society.
We are.
I want it now. I'm going to do it now. And that's why I always say to people, really, just don't pull back.
That's why the 24-hour handgun
The
rule is good. Whether
yes,
you're going to kill yourself or someone
just
else.
Pull back.
What can we do?
More warning signs. Yeah, obviously, more isolation. If it's a student, poor grades. Less sleep. The main thing would be isolation.
Okay.
But again, Whitney, we don't know. Your cousin you thought was doing well. I mean, she had struggles. We all have struggles.
Yeah.
We all suffer.
But there are a lot of places people can go. You and I were with the Grief Recovery Center for their annual gala recently. Call 211 They will put you through to a hotline, somebody to talk to, because a lot of times people don't know. Again,
Yes.
they don't want to talk to family or friends. Strangers seems to be a safer place.
And if I may add a positive note, because we love positivity.
Yes.
I went to a workshop last week and I sat next to an incredible lady at 59 years old. Hello, whoever you are. I wish you were watching. She does the 24-hour hotline.
She does.
And how many lives do you think she saved on that hotline? I mean, we talk about these horrible situations, but we really need to keep in mind that there are the 211s and the people out there.
And do you know that a lot of those people, and I don't know, of course, if she falls into that category, but a lot of those people have been in that same situation. So when you call that, I've talked to a bunch of people who used, because I was on the board for years, and so many of them have that close connection. And so they really can relate and help and give great advice. So
incredible.
Yeah.
And a real statement again of the great things that are available and happening that won't get the front page there.
And Robin Williams' death may lead to better diagnosis.
Great
with Lewy
point.
body disease.
Great.
It will.
He brought the awareness.
It did.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too.
Thanks
and
so
if
much.
anybody's hurting, reach out.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dr. Nick. Much more Weekends with Whitney right after this.
Go Roof is proud to serve the Baton Rouge and surrounding areas with our years of experience and quality service. We want more than just your roofing needs. Go Roof cares about the client and wants you to be our customer for life. Roof replacement, repair, vents, and more. Go Roof will get it done. We have excellent standing relationships with all the top insurance companies, so making your claim is fast and easy. A beautiful roof every single time at Go Roof. Call now for a free estimate.
Thanks for starting your morning with us here on Weekends with Whitney. This is the first Sunday that we've been starting at 9 a.m. and will continue to be at that time from now on. Thanks for being part of it. Hope to see you back here again next Sunday. This morning we leave you with creatures that enjoy eating in South Louisiana just about as much as the rest of us. Have a beautiful day.
Oh.